because each nation is at a different level of development. Now, with that said, going back to the formation of the European Union, the European coal and steel community, going back into the late 40s and 1950s, something I lived through because I lived in Europe in those years. And again, totally unnatural. It couldn't work, and it isn't working, and that's why. And of course, they made a lot of mistakes along the way. Well, the Bilderbergers, want to force it to work, and that's not going to happen. And a good example of very, very poor judgment is the continuing secret meetings that they have, and all the guards and the paraphernalia, and people won't say anything about anything that goes on inside. Well, this time they went too far, and this guard knocked down a member of the European Parliament from the Northern League in Italy, but he knocked him down head first, broke his nose, lacerated him, and then gave him a kick for good measure. Disastrous. In fact, when Alex and I heard that, Alex was yelling at the top of his lungs that was great because this is going to blow the whole meeting, and he was right. And so they all left early, and I don't think they accomplished very much. And if I were them, I wouldn't be dumb enough to have another Bilderberger meeting where they go in secret. That be as it may, they're on the run. And then they got Greece facing them, many of whom these Bilderbergers are bankers. They're looking at horrendous losses. And then if Ireland and Portugal follow, which I'm sure they will, it gets worse. And Spain is a dog's breakfast. It's a mess financially. They've got 40% unemployment among young people. And the police there last week acted like a bunch of goons. I had the tapes of everything just like Alex did and disseminated them. The people weren't doing anything, so they just beat them. And you don't do those kind of things, particularly in Spain. And so all this is boomeranging on them, and they're getting hit from several different sides while they are deliberately trying to extend warfare in the Middle East. And as I have predicted before, like in the prediction of 9/11, Afghanistan, and Iraq, they're trying to start, obviously, a combination of wars, not caring about the U.S. Congress or what the American laws are, just because they want to, and they think they can do anything they want. This is going to be a diversion, supposedly, from all of the financial and economic problems that exist that they caused.
Okay, Bob, I've got to cut you off one more time. We're going to come back from break and get into that final stuff. And why did they plan for IMF riots, economic riots, even in the U.S.? What will it mean for the free people of the world? Aaron Dykes back in a moment for Infowars.com, The Alex Jones Show. All right, we're back on The Alex Jones Show, closing in on the third hour. I'm Aaron Dykes, sitting in. And we still have Bob Chapman with us through the end of the hour. We're going to try to jam in some phone calls as well. We're really trying to break down everything happening with this economic crisis. Bob Chapman, it's something they really plan to capitalize on, using a global crisis of economic proportions to bring in a global solution. But it is, in fact, backfiring on them as the wars expand, as everything's going on. Before getting to your points on that, I just want to plug again, Alex has a new video, Obama launching World War III, that should be up on Infowars.com, PrisonPlanet.tv, and the Alex Jones channel on YouTube. A very important broadcast about, unfortunately, the looming wider war, as we have earlier reports from the week from military personnel that Obama and the U.S. are planning to launch a much wider Libyan war, that troops are moving in at least by September, October, or early November. But Bob Chapman, back to the economic forecast, what does all this mean for their global solution, and what will it mean for the United States?
Well, I think as far as the world elitists, the Bilderberger types, are concerned, they've got an awful lot of headwind to fight against. They've made some grievous errors, underestimating the Greeks. Their meeting, the Bilderberg meeting at St. Moritz, really is a disaster for them. And now banks and countries are looking down the barrel of not being able to collect on their bonds to suffer grievous losses. And that will spread deeply to the United States in the hundreds of billions of dollars as well. And that's something that nobody needs, particularly in this case the U.S. We still have, throughout Europe, England, and the United States, many, many banks that are insolvent, that are being held up by infusions of capital that you never see, that never reach the media, being supplied by the Fed and other central banks. In fact, the European Central Bank is not supposed to create money out of thin air like the Fed is. And they're doing it anyway. I mean, when all is said and done, these people should be prosecuted. And what they're doing are criminal acts in the European Central Bank. But most people aren't aware of that either. So anyway, as we go forward, things are going to worsen. And the President of the United States is doing exactly what he's being told. And if Congress wants to stop him, and they've filed a lawsuit in federal court against the President, and to stop him from having these so-called wars or incursions or whatever the President calls them. And I think the best thing for Congress to do, if he ignores them, is to bring impeachment against him. Now, that may not stop what's going on, because the Vice President does what he's told as well. But the point is, the American people, through their representatives, will have spoken. And I think that probably is the next step. His ratings are dreadful. Even the polling companies that favor him, so to speak, have him at 49%, when in fact he's probably somewhere around 39% in reality.
Yeah, on the impeachment question, I've just seen so many people casting doubt on themselves that, we couldn't impeach Obama or Bush or whomever because the vice president's even worse. But obviously it's not only the right duty and action to take, but it would clearly send a message to Biden or whoever. They would be extremely careful what they did after that, knowing that the people are furious. Or am I on the wrong track, Bob?
No, I think you're on the right track. Send a message. And that's the way to do it. I mean, some of these people have been fighting on some of these issues for years and years. And maybe after 2 years or 10 years, something finally happens if you push and push and push. And that's what we have to do. We have to let them know we know exactly what you're doing, and you're not going to do it anymore.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think the culmination of problems, which is in process now in Europe, is going to complicate the problems in England and in the United States. I haven't even talked about the U.S., which is federal debt, which is being funded 80% by the Federal Reserve, which is creating the money out of thin air. And we have the municipal problems, which are legion. 40% of the states are on the edge of bankruptcy, if not bankrupt, although they can't go bankrupt. But the point is that that's where they're at. Real estate, much to everyone's surprise, including my own, I thought that maybe 10% more when we'd hit bottom. No, it looks like we're going even lower than that. And I think if this continues the way it is for the next year and a half or two, we can have every mortgage in the country underwater. Now, that's where we're headed with that. And then you have these layoffs one after another, 22.4% unemployment, real inflation of 10.2%. And then you have the ability for people to buy things curtailed. If you notice the last retail figures, they were off slightly. Well, if you take out the inflation, they were probably off 3 or 4%. And so this whole thing is like a stone, and it keeps on rolling down the hill, and Ephesus isn't there to catch it and try to bring it back up again.
But it looks like the main thing they prepared for is economic riots, IMF riots. Since at least 2008, we have headlines like the Arizona police say they're prepared as the War College warns military must prepare for unrest in the United States. It's already been happening in Europe. How soon is that coming to the States? Will it be the Legion city matters, municipal matters you spoke of, or will it be a bigger housing crisis or the euro itself?
I think that's a hard call, but if you look back in history, you'll see that protests, riots, revolution, or civil war usually emanate from people who have nothing to eat. And so we know when we reach that point that it's going to get bad. It could happen before that. It's hard to time those things. Very, very difficult. I mean, I've been on this program for years with Alex, and he keeps on saying, gee, will it happen in 6 months or a year? And I said, no, it's not going to. I mean, these people got a lot of brains and a lot of stamina. Yes, they make mistakes, but they still want to strangle us. Why? Because there's no way back for them. They've crossed the Rubicon. They headed into Rome, and Rome is armed and waiting for them. And that's what the Illuminists, the Bilderbergers, that's what they're facing. And so if they lose permanently. And so this is a titanic struggle that is one of the greatest struggles in modern history, if not in the history of mankind.
Well, as far as the Bilderberg group itself, people still have the audacity to pretend they don't affect our decisions, that they aren't putting these crises into motion. I can tell you, I was outside the gates in 2006 in Ottawa when the intel came out and revealed they were planning to pop the housing bubble and unleash this crisis. That was 2006. The full thing didn't happen till 2008, but obviously their hands were on the chicken switch.
That's right. And so we have to look at the long term, and we know it's not good. We know where they're headed. We know where the trend is, and we have to do what we can to disrupt the trend. And that's why we're on the radio and television and on the Internet doing the things that we do to expose the truth to people, like in Greece, so that they'll understand what their rights are. And if they do not say no, then they're going to live on their knees for the next 50 years, maybe longer. And so that's our job. But it's the job of the people to get prepared, to listen, and to tell other people really what's going on. And, of course, read the international forecaster. That helps. But I think that it's too hard to put a time frame on it. It just is. And I don't know whether we're going to have violent troubles in America 6 months from now or 3 years from now. But I do know there's a good chance and a good probability that that's going to happen.
No, I understand what you're saying. Let's bring in some callers right now. I believe we have Julio in Illinois. Are you there?
I am here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. What can you say to myself and Bob Chapman?
First off, Aaron, you're doing a great job filling in, a great job out with the evil out in Switzerland. You guys and Paul did a magnificent job. First off, before I get my question to Bob, I'm working on getting some video. TSA in black uniforms are at Union Station in Chicago, Illinois, along with railroad police. I'm working on getting video of that. I commute frequently into the land of Rahm Emanuel, the Mossad agent, so I'm working on getting video up for that. So, again, TSA black shirt uniforms in Chicago's Union Station.
So they're patting down the families at the train stations?
I haven't seen them patting down, more so of their presence there, just walking around Union Station. You know, if you see something, say something. I actually saw a TSA Homeland Security poster at Union Station. I haven't seen any pat-downs yet, but they are at Union Station, so I wanted to let you know that.
Yeah, also a place to watch for provocations, obviously, in the next false flag. But what's your question for Bob Chapman?
I was just going to say false flag is imminent. The way Bilderberg, literally, the whole meeting just blew up in the elitist face. Mr. Chapman, I wanted to ask you, because we remember in 2008, they do it every 4 years. They come back to North America to bring up the next puppeteer. Do you think in the next upcoming meeting for Bilderberg and like the G20, they're going to be much more quiet and telling, and letting us